Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So for today's card we're going to make a shaped card using some honeybee stamps, dies and stamps, and so there's a lot of pieces in this, and I actually stamped and die cut a lot more than I thought I was going to need. So sometimes it's easier to simplify things for yourself, which I should have done. So one of the dies is the hinge that's going to create the card base or the shaped card. So I've got that piece there and it's already pre-scored when you die cut it, so it's very easy to fold in half. And then I'm using some Lawn Fawn, this is the 1/8 inch tape. It's very strong tape. You need something strong because obviously this is going to create your card. And then I take it off one side of that, and although it won't fit across the entire length, I sort of aim somewhere in the middle. And then once I've got one half stuck on, I take the tape off, line up the front and the back of the card, and then it goes together really, really easy. And I just use the bone folder just to really sort of score that edge again. So for the front of my house, I want there to be like a brick effect. So I've dragged out a Stampin' Up bricked stencil. I don't know if that's the actual name, but it came in a set of 4 a few years ago. And I'm going to use some Versacolor in, it's a pigment ink, and it's in white. It's always looks really yellow, so I'm never sure whether this is actually going to be as white as I need it, and maybe for like sentiments and that I need to find a better or a more vibrant white pigment ink for that. But this works, and it worked out a lot better than I thought, so maybe the contrast on the red makes it stand out better. I'm not sure, but like I say, it always looks very yellow in the ink pad, but it is a white pigment ink, which also means it's going to take longer to dry, so just be aware of that when you're going to carry on with your project. I didn't have anything smear or anything, so it was fine. And then I used some temporary adhesive just to close the card shut, just so that it wasn't sort of flapping. So what I've done is these two pieces, the snow edge and the rooftop, are actually from the Gingerbread add-on, house builder add-on from Honeybee. So I'm taking the snow piece and just making sure that I don't see the rooftop through it, so it sort of overhangs. And then when I've trimmed off the edges, I'm also rounding those corners because, well, snow's not square, so it just gives it a more authentic look, like it's snowed over the top of the roof. And then I'm gonna get I'll get that adhered in a minute to the card base. When you're going to use like builder die sets and things like that, it's a good idea to sort of, before you actually stick anything down, just sort of lay things out so you know which piece needs to go on first, which sometimes I don't do, and then I have the trouble of getting it off and sort of putting it where it needs to go, but nonetheless. So that's just a tip. Just lay things out first before you actually commit to gluing it on there. And then these two pieces, the white frame on the right hand side and this left sort of piece that has pillars on it, that's what I'm going to call them. I actually used some of the offcuts because what I wanted was, I didn't want the brick of the bottom to show through, and I didn't want the rooftop to show through the arch that's going to go on top of it. So I actually die cut it out of red and white. White will be my main like storefront, but I thought also, because I had these pieces left over, that it would be quite cool to have a bit extra dimension. Whenever I'm editing videos, I also notice that there are a much easier way to do these things than when I'm actually making them. But anyway, and I could have actually just taped all the pieces that have come out from the red piece. I could have actually just kept all that as one piece and just used some washi tape at the back. That would have been a bit easier. But you'll see I'll basically inlay those pieces in. So before I do that, I'm going to add these stairs which again is another piece that you get in the die set, and it will cut out for you, and just kind of trying to centralize it. Really, you could not have it centered. You could do what you want, really. You could have it off to the left or right if you wanted to. I just thought it made sense to put it in the middle. And then these are the two, so the arch and the, like where the pillars are. I'm going to sort of piece them together so that it's just easier to then stick it to the front of the card, because this arch kind of sits behind, or from what I could tell, sits behind the, like the rest of the storefront. I guess you could make almost like stained glass windows in that top section if you wanted to. I didn't today, but you could. So do you see how the bricks are showing through, and so is the roof? So I didn't want that. And I guess in reality you wouldn't have that. You would have whatever is inside that section. So I'm just grabbing some of these pieces, including all the pieces that I'm going to inlay back in. Hopefully it'll make more sense as we carry on with this. And because there's 2 layers of cardstock now, when I inlay these pieces in, it's going to give it a little bit of dimension without it being too much effort, really. I didn't have to put foam tape on or anything. So cardstock's another great way to get dimension on your cards without, you know, in like solid dimension, without it being, you know, faffing about with the bits of foam tape and stuff, because sometimes they can be kind of fiddly. So there's the start of the storefront, and I had issues. My cat kept trying to get into my tea, yeah, all day when I was filming this. So yeah, a couple of things are going to be a little off center, like this one, the pillar didn't stick quite right, but you know what, I'm so far in it, and when you get to the end of this, it's not going to matter. You're not going to see any of that. So just laying these and sort of pushing them into place, because essentially those red pieces are lining up with the red piece that's on the back of the white. And apologies, my camera died as well, so this is going well. So I also put together, there's a little like chimney, so I put that together, and it does emboss lines on there, so I just highlighted those with a white gel pen. I also added the little snow that goes on top of the chimney. And then there are these 2 pieces that are a stamp, but there's no coordinating die. So my thought when I was editing is that maybe you can just stamp straight onto those pillars instead of then adding the candy stripes afterwards, like I did. It's a very easy cut, so I just cut them out myself after I'd stamped them. And also all the colouring in this video is going to be very, very basic. There's no shading or anything like that. I spend so much time die cutting and getting all the pieces together that by the time it came to colouring in the little images, I was kind of spent. So and then for the door, I decided it had to be a sparkly silver door, of course, but it's Christmas, so why not? And so I put that on, and then I used a different shade of red for the like arch that goes around the door, or what creates the door. You don't have to put that centerpiece in. I actually cut that out and added it in. That's sort of, the arch is what you cut out, not the center where the, you know, the sparkly door. I just thought that looked kind of cool. And then using a T-square ruler to line up these little, I think these are kind of like porthole type style windows. And because I had the sparkly silver on those, I decided that was where the door then came in. I thought I needed more of that, because otherwise that's not going to make sense, because it's just like one little piece like that. And then I also just, for the windows, I added pieces of yellow cardstock behind them, just to, again, to marry up with the little porthole style windows. And it makes it look like there's a glow from the inside. And then the little bell I put on the top here, just kind of finagling until I was happy of where it should go. Probably would have laid flat quite nicely if I hadn't had all those layers in the back. But yeah. And then the little wreath, it's I think it's just a die. I don't think there was a stamp for this one, but I just cut that out, and then I also die cut, stamped and cut out the little bow to go on it. Really easy. Now these little oh, let me get my windows on first, I think. I'll explain those little things in a minute. I didn't know what they were. So again, just putting my little windows on. And I love the windows. I think they're really cute. Like really lovely. Almost like that old-fashioned stained glass kind of old-fashioned window. I don't know. You know, like the really old ones that used to have like lead on them. Obviously, we don't want that now. But that sort of really old-fashioned style. I think they're so pretty. And then for the storefront, like name of the store, there are these two pieces that die cut as well. So I cut one in red, which is just overlapping or overlaying over that section, and it fits really well. And then I'm going to stamp the, I guess what is sort of the sentiment, but not really. I totally forgot about an actual sentiment. I'm going to stamp Santa's Workshop. There is another one in there that says the something toy store company or something. You can also use that as well. It didn't stamp particularly well, and I don't know why. I don't know if there was just from all the die cutting whether there were bits of cardstock on the white piece, but it's fine. I went with it. I was this far in. I'd done so much stuff to this card already. I didn't want to start again or have to recut it, so I just went with the flow. And it's fine. Now these little green, well, I cut them out in green. These are actually what form part of the lights. Now you'll see in a minute. So I'm going to hang a few of these up, and then there's these other little, I thought they were like little bow tie type things. They're not. When I thought about it in a more logical way, and when I was editing the video, because of course that makes sense when you're editing a video, you suddenly clock what some of these things are. They're actually like the connector for the lights. So if I'd thought that far, I could have actually used either there are stamps in the stamp set that are little like lights, you know, like Christmas tree lights kind of thing. I could have used those, or I could have used on Lawn Fawns, they have like a house builder, like a reveal wheel house builder little house, if that's what it's called, and on there's actually little lights that you can, for the Christmas one, that I could have used as well. I could have just used the actual light part rather than the whole string. So yes, you'll see these funny little things that I put on here. I thought when I first started doing this that these were like little bow things or something, like little ties. So we're going to pretend they are, because I didn't put the things on, but they're I think they're actually the connectors, like I say. Anyway, it turns out cute. It looks fine. It's fine. But sometimes these things happen. So just getting them all on here, and when you cut them out, that actually cuts out 2 of each and 4 of the 2 of each of the green and 4 of those little connector things. So it makes it really easy when you want to die cut them. So there's the toy store itself. So now I'm still going to add some more bits and pieces to it, of course. I'm not going to leave it like that. You could leave it like that, that'd be beautiful. So there's a little sleigh in this, so of course I've dragged in some more of that glitter cardstock. When you're using glitter cardstock, you need to use like a wet adhesive, because it just, I mean, the back of it's fine for like normal adhesive if it was a bigger piece, of course, but like sticking the, like this part, the sleigh part to the carriage was a lot more difficult without wet adhesive, and I still struggle to get it to stick because of the glitter. It's very thick glitter on this cardstock, so yeah, but it worked fine in the end. I think in the end I stick an acrylic block on it because it just wasn't quite holding. Once the glue dries, it's fine, but I would always use the wet adhesive when you're using or try to stick something to glitter cardstock, or you know, in this sort of instance. So now I've got all the stamped images. There were way too many stamped images for this for this card, and that little car on the top left, if you saw it, I really wanted to use that car. It reminds me of one that my granddad has. It's like a wooden car that he always had on his mantelpiece, and we used to play with it, like a working one. So whoever created that thing was a genius, because it had all these movable parts, but it was all made out of wood. And it just reminded me of that, and I really wanted to put it into this card somewhere as one of the toys. But when I went to die cut them, it turns out I have two of the like big truck things. There's another little stamp that's like a toy truck. I have two of those dies, and not that one, so I had to hand cut it, and then I didn't like, because the spacing wasn't the same and I wasn't overly happy. So in the end I actually simplified all the toys that I was going to use. I just used the Santa sack and the snowman, North Pole, and the light. There's a lot going on in this card. I don't need to use all those other things, although you could. So I'm not upset that there's not the other die. I have a scan and cut, so most of the time I don't actually buy the dies. But when you buy the like add-ons for like the Gingerbread house add-on, or the toy store add-on, when you buy the stamps that go with it, the dies for the add-ons, it has all the coordinating dies for the stamp set anyway. So it's kind of clever, because it sort of encourages you to buy the stamp set as well, even if you don't want it. And then for me, it means that I've got the coordinating dies as well. But I have my scan and cut, and that's what I normally use to cut my images out. It was one of those days I actually used the dies, and I then realised I don't have one for that car. So I was a little bit gutted, but it is what it is. So very simple colouring. Like I say, there's a lot going on in this card anyway, so I kept to very basic colours. Again, all the information will be below the video, which you would have seen at the beginning with my little pop-up thing that I've created. So for the bottom, I also wanted them to be a bit grounded. So I grabbed the simple no stitched Hillside borders from Lawn Fawn and just used a scrap piece of cardstock. And what I'm going to do is I want the smallest amount on there. So this is going to, I'm not using that whole piece, and you'll see I'll actually cut most of it off, because I just want a hint of ground so that they are grounded. So you can see most of it's hanging off the edge. Then I'm going to get rid of that. But I needed them to be grounded. I think that's something quite important, whether you're stamping or whether you're doing like dies and things like that and creating scenery cards, is ground your images, because it makes a big difference. So I've got a little bit of snow going on there, or what we're going to say is snow, and it just helps me place the snowman himself, because obviously he's got a bit of snow underneath him, but without a grounding he would look kind of weird sat there, and so would the sleigh. So I'm also going to partially pop up and partially not pop up these images. So I've got some tape on the bottom of the North Pole sign, and then also some foam tape on sort of half. I had to obviously take some of it off because it overhung too much. That's the other thing with this card. It will fit into an A2 envelope, a standard A envelope, but for me, I think if it overhangs, it doesn't matter. I'm going to use I've gone to all this trouble to make this card, and there's a lot of stuff going on in it. I will just use a bigger envelope. So that doesn't bother me. I think the card itself is more important than whether you land up using a bigger envelope. I know postage will be a bit more, but maybe this is a hand delivered one instead, maybe, if you're worried about that sort of thing. This is maybe a bit more special than some of the others. And then I put the toy sack in the Santa sleigh, and then I'm going to pop that up. I just thought that popped up would look really quite sweet and just add another bit of dimension. I also, when I go to put this on, will let it overhang a little on the left as well. So we've got, when you let something overhang on, say, the right hand side. Make sure you do the same on the left so that it balances the card out, otherwise it looks a bit lopsided. And then of course I needed to add what looks like snow, so I have some Nuvo White Blizzard crystal glitter drops, and I'm just adding it to anything that looks like snow or anything that looks fluffy white like the hats. I also forgot to colour my carrot nose in, so I'm just using it and going anywhere I think there might be snow, either sitting on top of things like windows, the arch at the top there might gather a bit of snow on there, and heck, it's Christmas, why not have like a ton of glitter and sparkle and shine. So for the shine I brought in the Nuvo Crystal Glaze, and I've used it on the lamp, and I will use it on those little porthole style windows. I also then, and this was an afterthought, I thought the roof line didn't quite show up as well. It does in person, but there's so much going on the bottom half of the card, I kind of needed the top half to balance out as well. So I should have really done this before I stuck, or at least taken my time doing it, because I'm basically following the embossed or debossed sort of lines that it creates when you die cut it. But if I'd taken a bit more time, it would have been a bit neater. So to get around that so that it's not so obvious that it's a mess, I use the crystal, the White Blizzard again over the top, and just made it look like there's snow on there as well. So it's just very blingy card, this one. And then on the portholes, like I said, I was putting the crystal glaze so that they shine. Again, if I'd thought about it earlier, I would have done the windows, but it's fine. And then this is some barn door distress stickles, so I just chucked some berries on, and then of course the roof, the chimney needed its snow as well, so, which I totally forgot when I was doing all the other things. So there you go, guys. It's very detailed. There's a lot of die cutting. There's a lot of stuff going on, but it's so pretty, and actually it's so pretty. I don't know what else to say about it. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I will see you next time, guys. Bye.